Hello everyone, thanks for tuning in. Let's get to the point. The air in Imfondo, the main city of the Likouala department, is filled with an almost tangible sense of excitement. Crowds line the unpaved streets, their voices rising in a chorus of shouts and songs. Banners with the image of President Denis Sassou Nguesso wave in the humid breeze. To an outsider, this scene of joyful adoration might seem perfectly normal, a standard welcome for a visiting head of state. Yet, beneath the surface of this festive atmosphere, lies a deep and troubling paradox. This same region, now caught up in frenzied joy, is a symbol of deep neglect, a department seemingly forgotten by the central government in Brazzaville for decades. The same people who are dancing and singing are those who live daily with the consequences of this abandonment. This is Likouala, a vast remote territory in the northern reaches of the Republic of Congo. It's a land of immense natural wealth, yet its people endure a reality defined by what they lack. Clean drinking water is a luxury for many, and reliable electricity is more a dream than an everyday utility. The healthcare system is bare bones, with crumbling facilities struggling to provide even the most basic services. Most critically, the department is almost completely cut off from the rest of the country. The lack of paved roads makes travel a grueling, often impossible ordeal, effectively turning the region into an isolated island within its own nation. This isolation has crippled its economy and deepened the feeling of disconnection from the nation's progress. Despite this bleak picture, the arrival of President Sassou Nguesso on February 24, 2025, transforms the city into a theater of overwhelming support. The president, who has been in power for most of 4 decades, has consistently received astronomical scores in this very department in every election cycle. The people of Likouala have always cast their votes, showing in seemingly unwavering loyalty to the man and his party, the Congolese Labour Party, PCT. This unwavering political support, however, has never translated into the promised development, the roads, hospitals, schools, basic public services. They have remained electoral promises, repeated and then forgotten, cycle after cycle, leaving behind a trail of broken promises. The central question hanging over the celebration is thus as simple as it is profound. Why? Why is there so much joy in a place that has had so little reason to celebrate? How can a population, so deeply aware of its own marginalization, welcome the very leader who has presided over decades of this neglect with such unbridled enthusiasm? Are these scenes of jubilation an authentic expression of hope, or are they the result of something more complex, a conditioned response born from a long history of political patronage and a desperate need to believe that this time, things might finally be different? This essay will delve into this paradox, exploring the deep contradictions that define the relationship between Likouala and the central power.
Parce que tout récemment, les notables de la Likouala se sont prononcés.
The relationship between the Likouala department and President Sassou Nguesso's government is a perfect example of a political puzzle. It makes us rethink what we usually understand about how voters behave. We usually expect people to support someone if they get real benefits and better lives in return. But here the opposite seems to be true. The less the government does, the stronger the loyalty seems to be, at least on the surface. This way of things isn't new. It's been a part of Congo's politics for many years. As each election gets closer, including the one set for March 2026, the promises start again, and the political machine gets moving. This time the promise is huge. The Corridor 13 project. This big plan for buildings and roads, costing billions of dollars, aims to build a road that's 1,300 kilometers long. It will connect the Republic of Congo, the Central African Republic, and Chad. For Likouala, it's not just a road. It's like a lifeline. It means they might finally end their terrible isolation, get away to join the economy, and see a real sign that the government has finally remembered them. President Sassou Nguesso came to the region, bringing this big promise of change, starting the paving of an important part of the road and laying the first stone for a new bridge. For people who really want things to get better, such a grand gesture is sure to bring a strong feeling of hope and thanks. However, this burst of good feelings needs to be seen with a very recent and almost explosive display of unhappiness in mind. Just a few months before, In November 2025, the very fabric of this loyalty had been stretched to its breaking point. Senator Georges Ballet organized a meeting of the elders and important people of Likouala. It was a rare moment where people could openly express their feelings and years of frustration were shared. The elders talked about how deeply disappointed they were with promises that weren't kept and with being ignored all the time. The discussion was heated, and a radical idea gained popularity: a protest vote. This was a group decision to stop supporting the president and his party in the upcoming elections as a way to protest. This act of defiance sent shockwaves through the political establishment. The PCT machine moved quickly and quietly to stop the rebellion. Reports said that quiet steps were taken to limit the movement of some politicians in Likouala, silencing those who disagreed before their ideas could grow. The government's response ended in a remarkable turnaround. The same elders who had bravely said they would punish the president were soon seen publicly apologizing, saying they were loyal again and rejecting any talk of separation that had come up during their lively discussions. This sudden surrender brings up troubling questions about the pressures behind the scenes and the real nature of the loyalty that followed. This sets the stage for the president's visit, turning it from a simple political tour into a carefully planned act of political peacemaking and showing who's in charge again. Glass of clean drinking water. For a big part of the people in Mfondo and the villages, it's a tough daily job. Families depend on wells that are often dirty, or they have to travel far to the river, collecting water that always puts them at risk of getting sick. The promise of a modern water supply has been a common theme in campaigns, but the taps are still dry. The darkness that covers Likouala after the sun goes down isn't just a nice thought, it's a real and constant thing. Having reliable electricity is a far-off dream. The electricity supply is on and off, with frequent and long power outages, stopping any kind of modern life. Without constant electricity, businesses don't run. Without electricity, students can't study at night. Without electricity, refrigerated medicines can't be stored. It's a big difference between the grand political show and the sad daily reality. Over the years, people have gotten used to it, becoming tough because they have to be. But this toughness isn't about being happy, it's a way to cope. Every promise is met with hope and doubt. The memory of past letdowns is strong, yet the wish for a better life makes them want to believe again. The most striking thing about Likouala being left behind is how physically cut off it is. The department is really an island within its own country, suffering from what's called being landlocked. During the rainy season, the unpaved dirt paths that are used as roads turn into impassable rivers of mud, cutting off whole communities for weeks, even months. Without roads, trade is greatly hurt. Local farmers can't get their goods to bigger markets. On the flip side, the cost of bringing essential goods into Likouala is super high. Everything from fuel and building materials to medicines and manufactured products gets a big price increase. Getting higher education and specialized job chances is very limited for young people in Likouala, shrinking their future and forcing many to leave if they want to build a life. The promise of the Corridor 13 project gets to the very heart of this problem that's been going on for decades. It's not just a promise of asphalt and bridges, it's a promise to end being cut off. For people who have lived their lives feeling isolated, the idea of a modern highway connecting them to the rest of the country and beyond is almost like a miracle. The state of healthcare in the Likouala department is perhaps the saddest example of it being left behind. The buildings aren't just not good enough, they're falling apart. Health centers and clinics, run-down shells, lack of basic equipment, lack of essential medicines, lack of skilled staff. Patients are often asked to buy their own supplies. Syringes, bandages, private pharmacies, only if you can afford it. Seeking care means a long and hard journey. The only option, try the dangerous trip to Brazzaville. The human cost of this failure is huge and personal. High rates of babies dying, high rates of mothers dying, lives lost to malaria, typhoid, breathing problems. Every family has a story of a loved one lost too soon. These actions bring temporary relief. They work as political tools, avoiding the long-term investment and commitment needed to build a truly working healthcare system. The spark was Senator Georges Mongbenda Ballet. He felt what his people were going through, and he decided that staying quiet was no longer an option. He called a brave meeting, not with politicians, but with the moral leaders of the area, the elders, the respected figures, the keepers of tradition. The meeting, held on November 11, 2025, wasn't a big gathering or a political protest, it was presented as a council of wise people. The November 11th meeting turned into a place for deep and heartfelt sharing. One by one, the elders stood up to speak, sharing their raw and painful personal stories, big promises, roads that were never built, hospitals that stayed just plans, the shame of living in a rich area but not being able to provide clean drinking water for children. The discussion was heated. In this tense atmosphere, the idea of punishing politicians with votes came up and quickly gained support. A clear and organized decision to not vote for President Denis Sassou Nguesso in the upcoming elections. This idea was a game changer. They publicly stated that because of how things were, President Sassou Nguesso would not be welcome in their region. The news of the elders' rebellion caused alarm in the highest levels of the PCT party. The response wasn't a public fight, but a quiet and organized counterattack. The first step was to isolate Senator Georges Ballet. On November 23rd, he was officially called in for a hearing. The message was simple. Going against the rules has consequences. The case of Anatole Limbongo Ngoka is a clear example. In a strong and public show of power, Anatole Limbongo Ngoka was clearly told he could not make his planned visit, and had to go back to Brazzaville. The final act of political maneuvering began. The job fell to Major General Noel Léonard Isongo. He had to get not just a ceasefire but a complete and public change of heart. He reportedly asked them to think about the consequences, and to confirm that the borders of the Republic of Congo could not be broken. General Isongo's mission was a huge success. The Elders' Rebellion didn't end with a bang, but with a carefully planned public surrender. In their public statement, they formally asked President Sassou Nguesso for forgiveness. They restated their strong loyalty to the president, erasing the memory of their call for a protest vote. Their surrender was a lesson about how power really works in the Republic of Congo. Resistance is pointless. The way was now clear for President Sassou Nguesso to make his grand entrance into a region that had been prepared, calmed, ready to welcome him with the required excitement and admiration. The rebellion was officially over. President Denis Sassou Nguesso arrived in Likouala as a triumphant savior, a kind father figure coming to help his people. He came bearing the ultimate promise, the Corridor 13 project, a vision of total transformation. He announced the official start of paving the Oweso-Pokola section and the laying of the first stone for a new bridge over the Sangha River. These are real actions. Video clips showed scenes of people dancing, singing the president's praises, and showing their immense happiness. Residents interviewed spoke of a dream come true. This burst of joy presents the main puzzle. Are these the same people who live without reliable water and electricity? The answer, of course, is yes. The joy is real, but it comes from sadness. What happened was not just a series of random events, but a carefully planned political strategy, a masterstroke of political theater. The memory of the people is long. The people of Likouala remember past promises of roads that turned back into mud. The burden of proof now rests entirely with President Sassou Nguesso and his government. The success or failure of Corridor 13 will be the ultimate test of this government's honesty. The banners and celebrations will fade. The true test of this new chapter will not be measured by how loud the cheers are, but by the miles of asphalt laid, and the real improvement in the lives of the forgotten citizens of this long-suffering department. The future of Likouala depends on its people's ability to remember.